The future of Daniel Ricciardo in Formula 1 is starting to make the headlines again after the Australian driver was attending the Australian Grand Prix visiting the Red Bull pit. The driver was let go by McLaren at the end of last season after a disappointing 2-year spell with the team. Rather than take a 2023 seat towards the back of the grid, he opted for a year out by rejoining Red Bull.
I'm really excited to be back and just to be around a lot of faces that I have a lot of good memories with. I still keep in touch with quite a few of the crew here, which is nice. But their season's been phenomenal. I think ultimately just have the kind of pure dominance.
While Ricciardo's popularity and commercial value could almost guarantee him a seat at some teams, he is holding out for a drive in a competitive car, and it remains unclear whether an offer to tempt him back onto the grid will be forthcoming. Ricciardo, along with several team principals who have worked with him, spoke about his future during the Australian Grand Prix weekend. Red Bull chief Christian Horner, who oversaw Ricciardo's development with the team earlier in his career, made a quite stunning admission about the Australian. When he first turned up after the final race of 2022 in Abu Dhabi, I think the problem is when you drive a car that obviously has its limitations. You adapt and you try to adjust to extract the maximum out of that car, Horner said. Despite their initial concerns, Horner insists that after some time off during the winter, Ricciardo swiftly began to resemble the driver that won 7 races in 5 seasons with Red Bull. Having had time off over Christmas and so on, and a chance to reset, when he's come back and gotten to the 2023 work, he's hit the ground running, Horner said in Australia.
He's in good shape. He's kept himself, fit and well. Yeah, I think that he's training hard, and he's ready to go given the chance.
We're going to analyze the reasons behind Ricciardo's drop in form and discuss if he could regain his old form and compete at the top of Formula 1 once again. Ricciardo's career has been on a rollercoaster ride since his debut in 2011. He had a difficult time initially, but soon began to show his potential with the Toro Rosso team. He then joined Red Bull in 2014, replacing Mark Webber and soon establishing himself as one of the best drivers on the grid. He won 7 races in 5 seasons with the team and finished 3rd in the championship twice. However, Ricciardo's move to Renault in 2019 didn't quite go according to plan. He struggled to adapt to the car and team, and his results suffered as a result. He finished 9th in the championship that year with only 1 podium finish. In 2020, Ricciardo joined McLaren hoping to revive his career, but it was another difficult season for the Australian. He finished 7th in the championship with just 2 podium finishes and was consistently outperformed by his teammate Lando Norris. Last year, he had an even more disappointing season with McLaren. He finished 11th in the championship with no podium finishes, while Norris finished 3rd with 4 podiums. So what went wrong for Ricciardo at McLaren? Many believe that it was his struggle to adapt to the car, which has been notoriously difficult to drive in recent years. The team's decision to switch to Mercedes engines this year could potentially help Ricciardo and the team, but it remains to be seen if he can regain his old form. Another factor that may have contributed to Ricciardo's drop in form is his age. He is now 33 years old, which is not old by any means, but in a sport where drivers are getting younger and younger, it can be difficult to keep up. Ricciardo himself admits that he's not as quick as he used to be, but he still believes that he has what it takes to compete at the top level. But Ricciardo made it clear that his target is still to return to a top team, rather than just being back in Formula 1 for the sake of it. And given his experience and success in the sport, it's understandable why he wants to be back with a team that can challenge for podiums and wins. Speaking about his future during the Australian Grand Prix, Ricciardo said, "The signs are pointing towards getting back on the grid. I feel that's where I'm tracking in my head, and a few of the habits that I'm having or doing are pointing towards that."
I'm very, let's say, happy with the decision I made not to be on the grid this year. And I think a lot of people were worried. I know the sport moves too fast, and that's a career ender. But I mean, I know me better than anyone, and I know that this is right for me in 2023.
Ricciardo's optimism is understandable given his track record in the sport. But the big question remains, will he get that opportunity? With many driver contracts set to expire at the end of the 2023 season, there could be a lot of movement on the driver market. And if Ricciardo continues to show the kind of form he displayed in his Red Bull days, he could be a hot commodity for teams looking to add an experienced and talented driver to their lineup. During the Australian Grand Prix weekend, several team principals spoke about Ricciardo's future, and it was clear that there is still a lot of interest in the Australian driver. I guess I've had the chance to see other teams, other cars, and see what's out there, and for sure there's nothing guaranteed for next year, but I think my target is still to be in a top team and have a chance to fight for a championship. The most obvious destination for Ricciardo would be Mercedes. Lewis Hamilton will be 39 years old at the end of 2023, and there is a growing sense that he may retire from the sport. If Hamilton does retire, Mercedes will be looking for a top driver to replace him, and Ricciardo would be a great choice. Ricciardo has a proven track record of winning races and championships. He would be a perfect fit for Mercedes. Another possible destination for Ricciardo would be Ferrari. The Italian team has struggled in recent years, but they have made significant improvements in 2023 and are looking more competitive than they have for a while. If Ricciardo were to join Ferrari, he would be partnering with Charles Leclerc, one of the most exciting young talents in the sport. The prospect of Ricciardo-Leclerc partnership would be a mouth-watering prospect for F1 fans. Ricciardo is currently Red Bull's third driver, and it's possible that he could return to the team in 2024. Red Bull has a history of giving drivers a second chance, and Ricciardo has a strong relationship with the team. However, it's unclear whether Red Bull would be willing to take Ricciardo back after he left the team to join Renault in 2019.
Yeah, it's like returning home, you know, and after in this now like second phase of my career, feels warm and cozy, a lot of familiar faces, and back in the family, a lot of fond memories.
Ricciardo spent 2 seasons with McLaren, but was let go at the end of 2022. However, McLaren has made significant progress in recent years, and they are now a much more competitive team. Of course, this is all speculation at this point, and it's impossible to know where Ricciardo will end up in 2024. But one thing is clear, the Australian driver still has plenty to offer in F1, and his return to form has only increased his value on the driver market. In conclusion, Daniel Ricciardo's return to Red Bull as a third driver has sparked speculation about his future in F1. While he had a disappointing 2-year spell with McLaren, he has shown signs of returning to his former glory, and many believe he could be a hot commodity on the driver market in 2024. With his experience and success in the sport, it's understandable why he wants to return to a top team, and only time will tell where he ends up. But one thing is for sure, Ricciardo still has plenty to offer in F1, and his return to form is great news for fans of the sport.